Hello, everybody. This is Curtis with Campfire Tales, Cryptids of America. I have a Mr. Anonymous with us here tonight around the campfire, and I'm not too sure what he's going to talk to us about. But anyhow, he's agreed to join me, and we're just going to see what happens. But I want to remind you folks that before we get started, be sure to check our merchandise section in the link below. And if you like what you hear, give us a like and a share. And if you want to subscribe, hit the bell so you can be notified any and every time we have a video come out. I'm working on some new things right now, and so I haven't had anything out lately. Um, but I'm going to try to do at least one a week. See if we can get things back on track. So, without any further delay, Mr. Anonymous.
You can call me Rusty Shackleford.
Rusty Shackleford.
Rusty Shackleford. That's a good anonymous name.
Okay, I think I'll go with Mr. Anonymous.
Oh, okay.
So, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, you asked me what I want to talk about, and truthfully, I listened to a lot of your videos before, and the paranormal and cryptozoology and the unknown in general have been things that I have had a keen interest in, all my life. So it's hard to really just pinpoint one thing that I think is interesting. Honestly, I imagine we can cover just about anything and have a pretty good conversation about this.
Well, what kind of excuse me? What kind of experiences have you had? Have you seen or heard anything that made you think something, a booger in the woods, so to speak?
No, I haven't seen or heard any boogers, and I don't really want to. But I have had an interest in Bigfoot and other cryptids that are similar for, Bigfoot all my life, and then recently it's kind of my knowledge that there are other things in the woods that are more terrifying than Bigfoot. So,
Are you talking about like the skinwalkers and the wendigos and?
Yeah, the skinwalkers are pretty creepy.
Yeah.
They are. I honestly would never want to run into one of those, but more specifically, probably the scariest thing I think is out there is the dogman. That's what really gets my skin just curling on me. I grew up terrified. No reason really why. Just terrified of werewolves. And then as an adult, I pretty much put it in my head. As I grew up and matured, and it's like, okay, there's really no such thing as these things. There's no reason to be afraid of them. And then I got a bit older and I start watching videos and learning about Bigfoot and other cryptids, and this new topic starts coming up, the dogman, and I was like, holy crap! It basically looks and acts like a werewolf, aside from the metamorphosis, and it's terrifying to me. So,
yeah.
And what's scarier is about the dogman is like most Bigfoot stuff, aside from your story and things like that, they take place far away. There may be one or two Bigfoot or Sasquatches or whatever they're really called, here in Texas, and that's, yeah, sure. But one of the earliest dogman reports came from Texas, So, sure, there's a whole lot of them in the, in kind of like the Kentucky, around that area of the United States. But they're in Texas too, and I could be comfortable with the fact there's Bigfoot in Texas, mostly in the eastern side and a little bit around here, but the possibility of a dogman being anywhere near is terrifying.
Yeah, it's kind of like as a kid, you're afraid of the clown hiding in your closet, and your parents always say, "Oh, there's no evil clown hiding in there," and then as you grow up, you say, "You know what? There really was an evil clown hiding in my closet. No matter who says there wasn't. You
Yeah,
know?
it's the same thing. Being reassured not to be afraid of these things, and then you eventually reassure yourself that they're not real, and then you start doing the research, and lots of people are seeing these things.
You find out they are real.
And I don't know why no one has really. Well, I'll take what I was about to say back. I was about to say I don't really know why no one has really brought this up until recent times, but there have always been historic stories of things like this. Um, there's the South Texas story, where just for those that don't know, it was south of San Antonio, so it's pretty far south, and there was a farmer with a son, and his son was kind of a bookworm, and he was this dad was your classic farmer, Texas farmer. He didn't want his son to grow up to be a wuss. So one night he sent him into the woods with a gun. Go grow up, go shoot a deer, don't come back till you shoot something. And his son comes back terrified. He's like, "There's a giant wolf out in those woods. I don't want to go out there." And his son, the dad, sent him back out. And his son didn't come back for a couple hours, and the farmer starts to get worried, so he rounds up some of his friends, and they go out in the woods, and there was this giant bipedal wolf thing, eating his dead son.
Dude.
Yeah, and so I mean, that's pretty scary, right? But there's other stories, there's the I'll butcher the pronunciation, but there's an old classic French story, the Beast of I don't I honestly I can't pronounce it. But it's basically there was a village or community out in France, and they were terrorized by this wolf that kept killing and eating people, and it's really, it could have just been a rabid wolf or some kind of strange animal, but it could have been something else. And there's other tales like this, like the Beast of Bray Rd. Same situation, people would drive down this road and they'd see like this dogman looking thing. So it's nothing new really. They were isolated incidences, and they were far enough apart where people could kind of blow it off as just nonsense. And now it's becoming more and more common, I guess, as civilization starts to encroach on these wild areas. There's parts of Kentucky and Mississippi where these animals, these creatures, or whatever you want to call them, they're common knowledge.
So you say encroach on the area. There are a lot of wild animals like cougars or mountain lions that have an area, their territory, so to speak, is about 50 square miles. Do you think that Bigfoot has a territory that he roams and doesn't go past that? And do you think the same thing with the dogman?
I think the Bigfoot is a very migratory creature. The main reason I say that is because primarily, if you look at where he's sighted, he's not far from a body of water. And to me, that's indicative of something that follows the water. He travels probably with the seasons, goes north in the summer and south in the winter. And this is not unusual. You actually hear stories of people that have lived on properties for decades in some cases, and they have, I guess, I don't know if comfort is the right word, but they've kind of developed an understanding with these creatures, where they come and go, and these people that live there know, when winter comes around, they're going to come back. And you hear some weird stories, and none of it's ever been validated, but these people will give them food, like they develop like something kind of symbiotic. Well, not even symbiotic, because the people don't really benefit from it anyway, but it's just an understanding, I guess, where they'll actually come up to the back door and they'll give them eggs or something, and they'll go away. It's not
like
threatening.
I'm gonna give you eggs or something. Don't kill my cows.
It's not even really. It's not really even a threatening. What it's like if a stray cat or a stray dog walked up to your house and you give it some food.
You hear a lot of stories of people who do the gifting with the Bigfoot, and there are a lot of researchers out there who say that is not a good idea because they're wild animals. Uh, as far as we know, we don't know what their intelligence is, but if they're accustomed to you gifting to them, and they come along and you haven't gifted, well, they may retaliate.
Well, it's possible. I don't know how much animal they really are. Um, that's kind of a. I got kind of a wild theory about that, but it's it's possible. You don't know. You and I don't know. There's someone out there that probably does know. I'm sure. I'm not so naive to think that something like the government hasn't researched these things in some way, or
Yeah.
something, and they probably have a bigger grasp on what it is or isn't. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be nothing more than a bipedal gorilla for all we know.
But
But
I believe that there are different species of these animals, or whatever they're called, whatever you want to think they are.
uh
And I said this before that the ones that I saw, um, if you follow Matt Squatch on YouTube and look at one video he has, it's I don't know, maybe the 10, 20, whatever different species of Sasquatch. The one they call the wood booger,
huh.
that's what I saw right here in Texas.
Well, I
And
mean, I've seen that video, and it's compelling. Um, Mainly because there is a variety of descriptions and sightings, but the variety is consistent based off where people are,
yeah,
and it
well,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I was alluding to earlier when I asked you if you thought they had a territory, because the ones that have been seen in the Pacific Northwest, the descriptions of those are not really the description that you get here in Texas,
Yeah,
and the ones in Louisiana are different even further.
yeah, yeah.
So
And some of those, because I think what the Masquatch video did was he took looked at the descriptions based off their geographical area. He made a map, and it's interesting because some of those regions overlap each other, but yeah, I don't see why there wouldn't be, and there's no reason, like, I don't know. They if you what's interesting is if you look back a long time, there was a period where there was several different variations of what you would probably call human on this earth, right? And they all lived in different regions, and just over different courses of actions over the decades, basically we're the only one right now. But as far as we know, right? And so why couldn't there have been a similar situation with these, with whatever these are? You know, why couldn't there have been, or different variations of the same, I guess, you know species or genus or whatever, or however far back we have to classify it, in different places around the world.
Well, to me, it's kind of like a dog. A canine is a canine, but there are hundreds of different species of canine. And it could be that the Sasquatch. I don't know if somebody wants to, Gigantopithecus or whatever, some kind of primate, you know, and of course primate means some kind of monkey, and I don't necessarily see these guys swinging from trees because they're way too big for that. And to me, if you see somebody who has had an experience, it's really kind of hard to get them to tell you what they saw. because they don't want to be labeled as a kook or anything like that. And then you have these other people who go out into the woods trying to find a Bigfoot.
And their kooks were doing it.
Well, they're not going to find one because Bigfoot are only seen when they make a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, you seeing them is a huge surprise, a huge shock to your system, trust me. And them seeing you is like, oh, hey, they do exist, you know.
But you know what's interesting is something, and it sounds so wild, but it's consistent. You hear this pretty often, where you have people, they may or may not have been looking for it, and they're in the woods, and they have access to a camera, right? Either their phone, or they just have like a real camera, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they see these things, and the thought goes through their head, you know, I should take a picture of this, or they go to do it, and then they have this thought in their mind. It isn't even a thought really, because it's not theirs. It's an impression. If you take a picture of me, I will kill you, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, that's you know, they feel a feeling of danger if they do that, and so it kind of goes to one of those far off topics where, you know, really what are this thing's capabilities. And often with a lot of people with these creatures, there's some kind of it's like a common thread where people get these, what they call like these telepathic messages from these things, you know, because they can't communicate like you and I do, but people get these messages like, don't take a picture of me or you'll be in danger, you know. And people always ask, you know, if you saw a Bigfoot, why didn't you take a video? Why didn't you report it? Well, first of all, you're going to be, I mean, think about it. If you saw something like that in the woods, you're going to be just staring at it in disbelief. First of all, you're not going to know what you're looking at.
Absolutely.
And second of all, if something like that comes in your mind, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to take a picture. And those people that probably do, you probably don't hear from them for different reasons.
I will tell you what went through my mind the night that I saw this. Okay, and it's funny how many thoughts you can process, how fast you can process them. Because my first was, you know, what is that? Not a bear, because we haven't had bear in this area in a long time. It's not a hog, not a cow. It stood up on its hind legs and kind of turned its shoulders a little and was looking at me. And I had my headlights on bright, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's going to scare this creature, you know. So I put them on dim, and you could still see him clearly because we were only like 25, 30 foot away. And the thought that was running through my mind was, what do I do? And that moment of realization that if this thing were to attack, there was nothing I could do to defend myself. My sister, my brother, and his wife, we were at this creature's mercy. And thank God it just took a couple of steps and vanished into this tree line. That there was nothing beyond the tree line, just open pasture. I had no idea where it went.
Yeah, you hear stories of these things, like they could, first of all, they're primates, and primates are absurdly strong, right? And this thing is easily 3 times the mass of a grown man. I mean, you hear stories where these things flip vans over. You know, if it came at you, if it had that determination, it could have flipped your car like a pancake and just do whatever he wanted, you know? So it's a very scary and kind of humbling experience, you know? I would imagine, I haven't seen it, and like I said, I would live a full, happy life if I did not. But, yeah, it's a scary thought, you know, that there's something out there that big, with that capability.
There are, and you know, I don't care what people think. I don't care what people say about those of us who have who report that we have seen something like this. Bigfoot, dogman, whatever it may be. But the fact is that disbelief does not take away the fact of what we saw.
Yeah, well,
And they can say what they want, but I guess until one of us winds up missing, and they find us in the woods being mauled by a creature, like your story, nobody's going to believe.
yeah, I really want to sacrifice myself for science.
I'm not.
So I want to backtrack a little bit.
All right, go ahead.
Because we talked about how at one point there were several different variations of humanity across the globe, right? And I hinted that at the same time, currently there's several different variations of these creatures along the globe,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So I want to share a story, and it's just a story. Who knows how true it is, but it's very interesting because it has a lot of implications if it's true. It isn't the only story of its kind. It's just the only story of its kind that is coming to mind right now. This is a Russian story, and I don't remember the names or anything like this, but there was a village in Russia, and somehow, by some means that I don't know, they managed to trap a female Sasquatch, or whatever the equivalent is over in Russia, right? And at first it was in this metal cage, and it was very aggressive, very scared, and over time it kind of calmed down, it chilled out, and it got to a point where they eventually allowed her to kind of roam free among the village, and for whatever reason she didn't go running back to the wilds, and so she lived her life or whatever. Now this is the weird part, because I don't know, maybe someone drank too much vodka one night, but this creature ends up getting pregnant, and she bears a male child that's half human, half Sasquatch.
She had several kids.
Did she?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, really, what this implication is that genetically, we are closely enough related that we can reproduce with one another. So, how that goes back to the question, where we say, these are animals. Well, but are they? Are they animals? Are they just another variation of us? That just is very, very different. If you look at a Neanderthal, it looks human, but it looks primitive also, like a primate. Yeah, and they're much larger. They have thicker bone structures, more muscle. So why couldn't there be something else that's just a little bit more in that extreme that's related to us?
They used to call that the missing link.
Yeah.
A missing link between man and primates.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember as a small child hearing my mom talk about the missing link, and we lived in a place called Ording, Washington for a while. And my mom, she heard something. We didn't live in town. We lived outside of town on, I believe it's called Leach Road. And at the time, we were one of about 4 houses in like a 2-mile radius, and lots of woods, lots of forest. And my mom heard something getting into our trash, and she's thinking raccoons or a bear or whatever, and so she looked out the window, and she said it was the biggest, hairiest man she ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
And but she said, I don't know what else to call it. I just call it a bear, just a bear man, or something like that. And she said, so, and for the rest of the time, until we collect enough funds to go back to Texas, you guys are coming in before it's dark.
What's interesting is often if you look at stories, not just like this where it's going through trash, and, that's kind of on the latter end of the scale. But when you have extreme stories where you have one or two, and it seems like they're harassing a household for a week or something like that.
Yeah.
Often, what happens is when they actually sat down with these people, the researchers, and were able to get honest, candid answers from the researchers. There was always women in the house, and they were always been straight. And so and usually what that would imply is that this is a male creature, smelling demonstration. Why would he go through the trash, or where does it end up? In the trash. And so, of course, sure, I'm not dismissing that there's food in there too, things like that they could go for. These are scavenging creatures, right? But to go so close to a house and dig through trash, often that's the case. There's something there that they're smelling, that they're searching for.
Something that arouses them. Oh well, let's face it, sexually stimulating, and we're not that far removed from animals ourselves. We just have a little more control. I'm not going to dig through the trash, but yeah, and I've been a big believer in that for a long time.
Yeah.
And the Native Americans would talk about the big hairy man who would raid their camps and steal their women and eat the kids and stuff like that. And then there's a place called Yacolt, Yacolt, Washington, and I believe that's called in their language there. That means Valley of the Missing Children.
Oh yeah.
And there were some kids come up missing and Sasquatch sightings and stuff back many years ago.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. There's a lot. And I think that's probably about it for tonight. And unless you have something you want to add.
No, I mean I could talk about this for quite a while. I'll add that if you listen to the it's famous now, but it's pretty recent. It's the the Cowman story. You remember?
I've heard of that.
I don't remember where. It's like the Cowman of someplace. But anyway, one of the focuses of that story was this thing took an interest in those kids. Like one of the children. They mentioned to the father that they had been talking to it. Of course, the father freaks out. He's like, "Is this thing coming in the house? Is it coming through the window or something?"
Yes, I remember this. Yeah.
And he's like, "No, talking through the window. It makes funny sounds, and the kid talks to it, right?" And there was a point where it reached through the window, broke the window, and tried to get the kid. And so they're fascinated by children. They're very interested in them, and so it's another theme. And if you look at these stories, yes, there's some garbage stories out there. There's some real stupid stuff out there. But if you look at them, take a step back, and look for common themes in these stories, no matter how far-fetched and crazy some of them may seem, they start to present themselves. And so there's a lot of there's some very interesting stuff behind what this creature is and what it's really capable of, and its lifestyle. So it's definitely worth study. It's definitely worth research, and I think it's my belief anyway that we know a lot more about this creature than is common knowledge. But if you look back at again those common themes among the stories, some of those commonalities, those things that present themselves pretty regularly, are the reasons that we are being basically, this sounds conspiracy theorist, but while we're being withheld information about these things.
because the implications of what these things really are and what they're capable of. Well, let's be honest. We have a virus going around the country, and people are hoarding toilet paper. You know, imagine if they knew that there was this giant creature out there that was capable of all these things, and there's probably one in your backyard right now, and you can't see it.
Or aliens,
Or aliens. Oh my gosh! Imagine that. You couldn't get toilet paper for years if that was the case.
Well, I think there are some things that we're better off not knowing because we do react rather foolishly at times. And but
I disagree, though. I think knowledge it's necessary.
well, I'm not saying that. I'm a huge believer in education. Okay, but what good would it possibly do anybody to know if there's aliens? Yeah, you're talking about a run on toilet paper, for crying out loud. There'd be a run on everything. I mean, it would be anarchy.
For a while, there would be.
Okay,
There'd be a lot of problems
It
for a
doesn't
while.
matter how long that anarchy lasts, it's the recovery period that takes time.
Here's the thing, though. It's going to happen eventually.
It is.
We'll find out eventually.
And we're seeing some of it now with the coronavirus.
Yeah, and we're just by withholding information on things like this, we're just delaying things.
That's
People
what
are eventually going to find out the truth about Bigfoot. Okay, somebody's eventually going to shoot one. Okay, and they're going to kill it, and they're going to get it back to civilization without the rest of them just ripping them apart. And now there's a body that we can autopsy.
I don't need to see a body. I don't need to see another
It'll never.
Sasquatch in my life.
Sasquatch will never be accepted in science until there's
I
a
know.
dead body.
I know.
And not just that, because I do believe that there have been dead bodies autopsied. But until there's a publicly known autopsy of a dead body, and same thing with UFOs. People will not accept UFOs unless the government admits to it, or one just crash lands in the middle of
New
Austin
Mexico.
or something, No,
Well-
it needs to be somewhere civilized. It has to be a place where there's people that are there. That you can deny something crashing in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico in the 1950s, but you can't deny something crashing in a park in Austin, where with 100 people, 1,000 people seeing it, or Fort Worth or New York, crash one in Central Park, and I don't know if we could ever, as far as ghosts go, I don't know how you'd ever.
Oh,
prove that,
here's the thing. I'm not one of these guys who, everything out there has happened to me or anything like that. But there was, I did not go looking for Bigfoot. I've never gone looking for Bigfoot, and I hope I never see another one. I love being out in the woods, in the forest, especially the Pacific Northwest. But I hope I never see another Bigfoot. Now, there was a time I did ghost hunting. And it was a very short-lived time because of the experience I had at the Crescent Hotel, which is also one of the YouTube videos that I have here. I do not know what passed between me and the wall in this bathroom. Now the lights are out because of a fatality accident down the road. But I'm standing at the urinal, and this black thing passed between me and the wall, and it was darker than the darkness in that room. So, I can't tell you what it was, but if it was a spirit, I'm done. I'm not hunting them anymore.
Yeah.
Found one.
With most people, because you got different. I don't know if it's levels or types of paranormal activity as far as that goes. You got like disembodied voices and stuff.
which is, I guess, pretty low level.
Well, let's save that for another episode, okay?
No.
Yeah, the ghost. Well, let's just focus on Bigfoot tonight, and
Oh, okay.
maybe ghost another night, and then our theories on ancient aliens and such.
It's your show. Whatever.
Main Street is my show. I'm calling for a commercial break.
Okay.
All right, folks. Again, hope you enjoyed our conversation tonight. Give us a thumbs up, and be sure to share us with your friends, and hit that like button, and hit the bell so you can be notified when we have other episodes coming out. Also, check out the merchandise and the descriptions down below. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.